this stop, we're going to talk about watering systems. And when you're moving animals on pasture, you got to think about water. It's a key component of it. There's two actually things they need here. We got water and we got a salt block. So depending on what your pastures need, definitely think about salt. This is a fencing video, so when we're thinking about your salt block placement, biggest thing with this is make sure that their cows aren't going to, or the animals aren't going to slide it under the fence and outside of your pasture, especially as the block gets eaten down more, it weighs less, it can slide out. So I always try to make it a little further in the pasture. Anyway, simple thing. But watering systems are key. This is a nice cheap watering system I've used for about a decade. In fact, I've used most of all these parts for that amount of time. And it's really simple. I have a 55-gallon plastic tub. Make sure you have one that didn't have some sort of toxic chemical in it. Cut it in half. Take the bottom half. You don't have to have a hole in it. I did drill a hole in this one. So in the back there's a cork, but honestly with cattle, if you're strong enough to flip this over, you don't need that cork. What happens here is they drink and then it refills. Let me dump some water. So there's our float refilling, and this is a really simple system. It's about a simple system, about a $24 float. It lasts a long time. You screw a hose into it. The float gets you all wet. The float has a little valve in there with a rubber gasket. When the water fills up, it stops. And so that's a really nice way. This is easy for me to move. I can put this down. I can flip my tank. Now I have a plastic tank that I can carry around. You see this one has a cork in the far side, only because I've used it for other things in the past. I don't suggest putting a hole in the bottom of it unless you need to be able to drain it to dump it, like if it's too heavy for you to dump as a person. Because sometimes the cows will get after that cork and like nip it and then you lose your water. So when I do have a cork in it, I put the cork towards the outside so that way the animals don't want to get after it with their mouth. The last thing on this water tub, one of the reasons I really like it, one, it's cheap, which I really like, and two, it's plastic. So if the fence touches it, it doesn't electrify my water. I've used metal tubs. They're nice in some ways, but the problem with a metal tub that you always risk, and I had this once with a bull who I had in a separate pasture, was the poly wire touched the tub, and so then he was afraid to go drink from that metal tub. Fortunately, I figured it out the same day it happened, but I quickly switched him to a plastic tub and had to show him like, hey, you can drink the water. So you'd be in a really tight spot if you have a metal tub and your electric fence is electrocuting that metal tub. It's not gonna hurt your animals, but they're not gonna be able to get water, and that's really important. So if you are gonna use a metal tub, I suggest that you have, because the tub may move or it may not, or the fence may move and touch it. So I suggest you have a metal tub, really put a fence post or two behind it to prevent that fence from hitting that tub. So those are the main components of the system. I use, if you have irrigation set up, on your farm, you can use irrigation. You can take a regular garden hose, hook it up to your, your frost-free valve or whatever. I don't have irrigation here set up yet. So I use this plastic 1/2-inch diameter poly hose. It's pretty cheap. 1,000 feet of it is a couple $100, and 1,000 feet goes a long way. There's quick fittings that I can undo or I can put back on, and it makes for a pretty easy system to move water. And so I'm going to move this to the next paddock where we just moved the cows, and I'll just undo this. I'll drag the hose around to where I need it to go, or I'll tee off somewhere and make it work. This stuff is nice too because I can just cut it with a knife and then get one of these easy lock fittings and just put the fitting right on it. So it's not like a hose clamp where you got to clamp it and do a whole bunch of mess. This poly hose is pretty simple. So that's a watering system.